The grand assembly hall of the Krill Imperium hummed with an energy that bordered on palpable fear. Millennia of strategic dominance, of carefully cultivated expansion across the spiral arm, felt poised on the precipice. A holographic projection shimmered at the hall's center, casting long, skeletal shadows across the Krill dignitaries and military advisors who had gathered. The image itself was a stark, impossible contradiction. A star, or rather, what appeared to be a star, but one meticulously encased within a network of articulated plates and colossal energy conduits. Its surface was no longer the chaotic roil of nuclear fusion, but a complex geometric mosaic, hinting at engineering on a scale that dwarfed even the most ambitious Krill megastructures. It was a truth that defied comprehension, an artifact that screamed of power and purpose beyond their current understanding. Grand Admiral Xyler, his chitinous face impassive save for the slight tremor in his mandibles, addressed the assembly, his voice resonating with carefully controlled gravitas. The initial sensor readings have been verified. These constructs are not naturally occurring phenomena. They are artificial, planet-sized, and there are several of them scattered across the periphery of what we have designated System Sol. A collective gasp rippled through the hall. System Sol. The insignificant backwater system recently claimed by the upstart species that had so boldly and unexpectedly entered the galactic stage, humanity. The Krill had monitored humanity's expansion with a mixture of amusement and cautious disdain. Their technology was crude, their ships underpowered, their societal structure bafflingly inefficient. Yet they possessed a certain tenacity, a willingness to gamble, to innovate that bordered on recklessness. This audacity had allowed them to carve out a small territory for themselves, much to the annoyance of several other minor galactic powers. But planet-sized starships, that was not tenacity. That was a quantum leap beyond anything the Krill, or any other species in known space, had ever achieved. The question, Grand Admiral, High Counselor Zorgan interjected, his voice laced with thinly veiled anxiety, is not what these objects are, but what they mean. Are they weapons, fortifications, or something else entirely? Xyler paused, his multifaceted eyes scanning the holographic projection. Weapons of that magnitude would be catastrophic. Their potential destructive force is beyond anything we can accurately model. He gestured towards a subordinate officer, who stepped forward and activated a secondary projection. It showed a series of extrapolated simulations, each depicting the potential impact of these colossal starships on a planetary system. The results were uniformly devastating. Planets shattered, stars destabilized, entire sectors reduced to lifeless debris fields. The implications were terrifying. Had humanity somehow stumbled upon an ancient technology, or more disturbingly, had they developed it themselves? The thought was almost unbearable. The Krill Imperium, with its centuries of technological advancement, its vast military resources, could be outmatched, outgunned, by a species barely a few generations removed from primitive rocketry. Counselor Lyra, a respected xenobiologist, spoke, her tone reflecting a desperate hope. Perhaps they are dormant. Relics of a long-dead civilization, rediscovered by humanity. Perhaps they do not even know how to activate them. Xyler shook his head slowly. Our analysis suggests otherwise, Counselor. There are energy signatures emanating from these constructs, low-level but consistent. They are being maintained, monitored, operated. Silence descended upon the assembly hall, heavy and oppressive. The Krill Imperium, a force that had shaped the galaxy for millennia, now found itself facing an existential threat, a technological enigma embodied by a species they had previously considered insignificant. Deep within the Sol system, aboard the Kepler station orbiting Earth, Dr. Aris Thorne stared at the sensor readings with a calm, almost meditative expression. The data streamed across his holographic display, a complex symphony of energy signatures, gravitational anomalies, and quantum fluctuations. For decades, the world had wondered what the purpose of the shield stars was, what they did and how they were built. Thorne, more than almost any other individual on the planet, knew that the shield stars weren't weapons, they were shields, protectors. Dr. Thorne, a voice crackled over the comm system, we're receiving a high-priority communication request from a vessel identifying itself as belonging to the Krill Imperium. They're requesting permission to enter Sol system airspace. Thorne sighed, a barely perceptible movement of his lips. The Krill, he had anticipated this. Their arrival was inevitable. The discovery of the shield stars had sent ripples throughout the galactic community, and the Krill, with their reputation for expansionism and their insatiable thirst for knowledge, would be among the first to investigate. Patch them through, Thorne replied, his voice steady. He adjusted his posture, preparing himself for the inevitable diplomatic dance. He understood the Krill's fear, their apprehension. The shield stars were by any measure an anomaly, an artifact of unimaginable scale and sophistication, a testament to humanity's capacity for both innovation and, perhaps more importantly, restraint. The Krill, however, were unlikely to see it that way, he thought. They would see only power. Potential power, and the threat it posed to their dominance. The holographic display flickered and a new image appeared, a chitinous face framed by elaborate head ornamentation. Grand Admiral Xyler. Thorne nodded respectfully. Grand Admiral, he said, his voice calm and measured. Welcome to Sol System. I am Dr. Eris Thorne, lead researcher on the Shield Star Project. To what do we owe the honor of your visit? Xyler's multifaceted eyes narrowed slightly. Dr. Thorne, your constructs have caused considerable consternation throughout the galactic community. We seek clarification, explanation, assurance. Thorne steepened his gaze at the Admiral. Clarification is certainly within my capacity to provide. Explanation perhaps within the bounds of galactic security protocols. Assurance is something I can offer with complete sincerity. The shield stars are not weapons. They are, as their name suggests, shields, defense systems designed to protect this system from external threats. Xyler's expression remained impassive. Threats? From whom? Or from what? Thorne hesitated for a moment. This was the delicate part, the part that could either lead to understanding or to galactic war. From threats that are beyond your current comprehension, Grand Admiral, Thorne said finally. Threats that lie dormant waiting for the opportune moment to awaken, threats that could consume entire galaxies. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. The shield stars are not merely a defense system, they are a warning, a beacon, a testament to a civilization that faced a similar threat and chose to protect not only themselves but the entire galaxy. Xyler remained silent for a long moment, his multifaceted eyes studying Thorne intently. The air in the Krill assembly hall was thick with anticipation. The fate of the Imperium, perhaps even the galaxy, hung in the balance. On board the Krill flagship, the Dominion, Xyler turned to his science advisor, a gaunt Krill named Resk. What is your assessment? Resk, his antennae twitching nervously, responded with a nervous tremor in his voice. Dr. Thorne's claims are extraordinary, almost unbelievable, but the energy signatures emanating from the shield stars, they are unlike anything we have ever encountered. They resonate with a frequency that suggests a connection to something vast, something ancient. Xyler pondered this for a long moment. The Krill Imperium had always prided itself on its rationalism, its adherence to empirical evidence. But the situation defied logic, defied explanation. Contact Dr. Thorne again, Xyler commanded. Inform him that we will grant him the opportunity to provide us with proof of his claims. We will send a delegation to Kepler Station. He will show us the truth, or he will face the consequences. He turned back to the holographic projection of Thorne, his chitinous face hardening. The fate of your species, Doctor, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy, rests on your shoulders. Thorne, back on Kepler Station, simply nodded. Understood, Grand Admiral. We will be awaiting your arrival. As the communication link terminated, Thorne turned to his assistant, a young woman named Alara. Prepare the station for the Krill delegation, he said, and begin the process of activating the archives. It's time to show them what we're up against. Alara nodded, her face pale but resolute. The fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders, and they were ready to bear that burden. The Krill delegation arrived at Kepler Station with a palpable sense of apprehension. The station itself, while technologically advanced, seemed almost quaint compared to the Krill's own orbital facilities. The Krill were led into a large conference room where Thorne awaited them, along with several other human scientists and diplomats. Xyler surveyed the room with a critical eye, taking in every detail. The humans exuded an aura of calm confidence that he found unsettling. They were not arrogant, but they were not intimidated either. They seemed prepared. Welcome to Kepler Station, Grand Admiral, Thorne said, his voice cordial. We are ready to share with you the information you seek. He gestured towards a large holographic display which flickered to life, revealing a series of complex diagrams and schematics. These are the schematics of the shield stars. As you can see, they are far more than simple defense systems. They are, in essence, energy conduits. Massive energy conduits designed to channel and amplify a specific type of energy. An energy that is lethal to the entities we call the Voidborn. Xyler's eyes narrowed. Voidborn? We have no record of any such entities, Thorne sighed. That is because they exist in a dimension beyond your current perception. They are beings of pure entropy, beings that consume energy that unravel the fabric of reality. They are drawn to sources of great power, and they have been feeding on the edges of this galaxy for millennia. He paused, allowing the gravity of his words to sink in. The shield stars were built by a civilization that fought the Voidborn to a standstill. A civilization that sacrificed itself to protect the rest of the galaxy. They left behind these constructs, not as weapons, but as a warning. A warning that the Voidborn are still out there, and that they will one day return. The Krill delegation exchanged nervous glances. The implications of Thorn's claims were staggering. If the Voidborn were real, then the entire galaxy was in danger. The Krill Imperium, with all its might, would be powerless to stop them. "What proof do you have of this?" Xyler demanded, his voice tinged with desperation. Thorn nodded. "We have activated the archives, the records left behind by the civilization that built the shield stars. They contain everything we know about the Voidborn, their weaknesses, and the methods used to combat them." The holographic display shifted, revealing a series of images and videos. The images were disturbing, depicting grotesque creatures of shadow and void, consuming entire stars and planets. The videos showed ancient battles, fought with energy weapons and technologies that were beyond the Krill's comprehension. The delegation watched in stunned silence, the reality of the Voidborn slowly sinking in. "These archives are extensive," Xyler said finally, his voice hushed. "Incredibly. Everything we need to rebuild the technology used to fight the Voidborn is in them, but it will take time." Thorn nodded. "Time is of the essence, Grand Admiral. The Voidborn are growing stronger. They are drawn to the energy signature of the shield stars. It is only a matter of time before they arrive in force." He paused, looking directly at Xyler. "We must work together. We must share our knowledge, our resources, our technology. Only then will we stand a chance of defeating the Voidborn." Xyler considered this for a long moment. The Krill Imperium had always been fiercely independent, reluctant to share its technology with other species. But the threat posed by the Voidborn was too great to ignore. "Very well, Dr. Thorn," Xyler said finally. "We will cooperate. We will share our resources and our technology, but we will do so under the guidance of the Krill Imperium." Thorn smiled faintly. "That is acceptable, Grand Admiral, as long as we are all working towards the same goal." The alliance between humanity and the Krill Imperium was forged in that moment, a fragile alliance born out of fear and desperation. But it was an alliance that would be tested in the coming years, as the Voidborn began their relentless assault on the galaxy. Years passed. The Krill and humanity worked tirelessly, deciphering the ancient technology of the shield star builders and adapting it to their own needs. They developed new weapons, new defenses, new strategies for combating the Voidborn. The shield stars themselves were upgraded, their energy output amplified, their defensive capabilities enhanced. Other species joined the alliance, drawn by the promise of protection and the shared threat of annihilation. The galaxy prepared for war. The first wave of the Voidborn arrived with terrifying force. They emerged from the void between dimensions, grotesque creatures of shadow and darkness, their hunger insatiable. They swarmed towards the shield stars, drawn by their immense energy signature. The battle was joined. The Krill and human fleets fought bravely, their energy weapons tearing through the Voidborn ranks. But the Voidborn were relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. The shield stars pulsed with energy, channeling the power of ancient technology to incinerate the Voidborn. But even they could not hold back the tide forever. On board the Dominion, Xyler watched the battle unfold with grim determination. The Krill were suffering heavy losses, their ships being torn apart by the Voidborn's relentless attacks. He knew that the Alliance was on the verge of collapse. If they could not break the Voidborn's assault, the galaxy would be consumed. "Dr. Thorn," Xyler said over the comm system, "we need a solution. We need it now." Thorn's voice was calm, even under the pressure. "I have a plan, Grand Admiral, but it is a risky one." Xyler hesitated. He knew that Thorn was a brilliant scientist, but he also knew that he was prone to taking risks. Risks that could have disastrous consequences. "What is your plan, Doctor?" Xyler asked, his voice tight. Thorn paused for a moment. "We need to activate the core, the central energy source of the shield star network. It will unleash a wave of energy that will obliterate the Voidborn in this sector, but it will also destabilize the shield stars themselves. They will collapse, and the energy released will cause a chain reaction that could destroy the entire system." Xyler was stunned. Thorn was proposing a suicide mission. A plan that could save the galaxy, but at the cost of their own lives and their own system. "Are you insane, Doctor?" Xyler exclaimed. "That plan will destroy everything." Thorn was silent for a moment. "Sometimes, Grand Admiral, the only way to save something is to destroy it. The Voidborn are an existential threat. If we do not stop them here, they will consume everything. We must be willing to sacrifice everything to ensure the survival of the galaxy. Xyler was torn. He knew that Thorn was right, but he could not bring himself to give the order. The Krill Imperium had always valued its own survival above all else. To sacrifice themselves for the good of the galaxy was a concept that was alien to him. I cannot give that order, Doctor, Xyler said finally. I will not condemn my people to death, Thorn sighed. Then I will do it myself, Grand Admiral. I will activate the core. Xyler watched in horror as Thorn initiated the activation sequence. The shield stars began to glow with an intense light, their energy output reaching critical levels. The Voidborn, sensing the imminent danger, redoubled their attacks. The Dominion was rocked by explosions, its shields flickering. Dr. Thorn, what are you doing? Alara screamed. Thorn turned to face her. I am doing what must be done, Alara. I am saving the galaxy, he smiled sadly. Remember what we learned. Remember what the shield star builders taught us, that we are all connected, that we are all responsible for the fate of the galaxy, that we must be willing to sacrifice ourselves for the greater good. Alara looked at Thorn, her eyes filled with tears. She knew that he was right, but she could not bear the thought of losing him. I understand, Doctor, Alara said finally. I will stay here with you. Thorn shook his head. No, Alara, you must leave. You must carry on our work. You must ensure that the galaxy never forgets what happened here. He grabbed her hand and placed it on the activation button. Now go, Alara, save the galaxy. Alara hesitated for a moment, then turned and fled. Thorn watched her go, his heart filled with both sadness and pride. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. It was time. With a final prayer, Thorn slammed his hand on the activation button. The shield stars erupted in a blinding flash of light. A wave of energy surged outwards, obliterating the Voidborn in its path. The shield stars began to collapse, their energy conduits shattering, their structures disintegrating. The Dominion was caught in the blast, its shields failing, its hull melting. Xyler watched in horror as the ship was torn apart. He knew that he was about to die, but he felt no fear. He felt only regret. Regret that he had not been brave enough to make the sacrifice himself. As the Dominion was consumed by the energy wave, Xyler closed his eyes and thought of his people. He hoped that they would learn from this experience, that they would learn to value the lives of others as much as they valued their own, that they would learn to work together for the common good. The system shook violently before the void took over. Alara, having escaped Kepler's station in a small shuttle, watched the destruction from a safe distance. The shield stars were gone, reduced to cosmic dust. The Voidborn were defeated, at least for now. But at what cost? The system was devastated and countless lives had been lost. She wept for Thorn, for the Krill, for all those who had sacrificed themselves to save the galaxy. She vowed to honor their memory, to continue their work, to ensure that the galaxy would never forget their sacrifice. But as the dust began to settle, a new anomaly appeared. A signal, a faint, almost imperceptible signal emanating from the center of the destroyed system. A signal that had been buried beneath the shield stars for millennia. A signal that was not of this galaxy. Alara focused her sensors on the signal, trying to decipher its meaning. What she found sent a chill down her spine. The signal was a message from beyond the known universe. A message that spoke of a threat far greater than the Voidborn, a threat that was coming. The message, Alara said, her voice trembling, is a warning about something called the Architects. She paused, her eyes widening in realization. The shield stars weren't just protecting us from the Voidborn, they were hiding us from the Architects. The galaxy had been saved from one threat, only to be exposed to another. A threat that was older, more powerful, and far more terrifying. The battle against the Voidborn had been a mere prelude to the true war. The discovery of the Architect signal reverberated throughout the galaxy. The alliance between humanity and the Krill Imperium, forged in the fires of war, was now tested in a way that no one could have anticipated. The Architects were an enigma, a cosmic horror beyond human comprehension. They were beings of pure creation, beings who shaped galaxies and stars to their own inscrutable designs. But their creations were not always benevolent. They were often brutal, often destructive, often incomprehensible. The message warned that the Architects were returning, that they had detected the presence of life in the galaxy, and that they were coming to judge it, to decide whether it was worthy of survival. The galaxy was plunged into chaos and uncertainty. Some species advocated for surrender, believing that resistance was futile. Others called for a preemptive strike, arguing that the only way to survive was to destroy the Architects before they could reach the galaxy. Alara, now a respected leader in the Alliance, argued for a different approach. She believed that the architects were not inherently evil, that they were simply beings of immense power whose motivations were beyond human understanding. She proposed that the Alliance should attempt to communicate with the architects to show them that the galaxy was worthy of survival. The Alliance was divided, but Alara's arguments eventually prevailed. They decided to send a delegation to meet the architects to attempt to negotiate a peaceful resolution. The delegation was led by Alara and a Krill scientist named Rylak, who had become a close friend and confidant. They traveled to the edge of the galaxy, to the point where the architect's signal originated. There, they encountered a structure of unimaginable scale and complexity, a structure that defied all known laws of physics. It was a gateway, a portal to another dimension, the dimension of the architects. Alara and Rylak entered the gateway, their hearts pounding with apprehension. They found themselves in a realm of pure energy, a place where the laws of reality were fluid and ever-changing. There they encountered the architects. They were beings of light and shadow, beings of pure intellect, beings who seemed to exist on a plane beyond human comprehension. The architects communicated with Alara and Rylak telepathically, probing their minds, examining their souls. "Why have you come here?" the architects asked, their voices echoing through the realm. Alara stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "We have come to show you that the galaxy is worthy of survival, that we are not a threat to you or to your creations, that we are a species that values life, that values knowledge, that values peace." The architects were silent for a long moment, their energy swirling around Alara and Rylak. "You are a young species," the architects said finally. "You are still learning. But you have potential. You have shown courage, compassion, and a willingness to sacrifice yourselves for the greater good." The architects paused, their voices taking on a somber tone. "But there is a darkness within you, a darkness that threatens to consume you, a darkness that could destroy the galaxy." Alara and Rylak exchanged nervous glances. They knew what the architects were talking about. The darkness was the potential for destruction, the capacity for selfishness, the willingness to resort to violence. It was a part of human nature, a part of Krill nature, a part of all sentient life. "We are aware of the darkness within us," Alara said, "but we are striving to overcome it. We are learning to control our impulses, to act with compassion and understanding. We are learning to be better." The architects were silent for a long moment, their energy swirling even more intensely. "Very well," the architects said finally. "We will give you a chance. We will give you a chance to prove that you are worthy of survival, but be warned, the darkness within you will be tested. And if you fail, the galaxy will be destroyed." The architects opened a portal, sending Alara and Rylak back to their own dimension. The delegation returned to the galaxy, bearing the architect's message. The galaxy was given a reprieve, a chance to prove its worth. But the threat of the architects remained, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked within. The species of the galaxy knew that they had to change, that they had to overcome their flaws, that they had to learn to live in peace and harmony. The future of the galaxy depended on it. Humanity and the Krill Imperium, once suspicious of each other, continued to work together, their alliance strengthened by shared adversity and the looming threat of the architects. They focused their efforts on promoting peace, understanding, and cooperation throughout the galaxy. They established educational programs, cultural exchange initiatives, and conflict resolution centers. Slowly but surely, the galaxy began to change. The species began to trust each other, to respect each other's differences, to work together for the common good. The darkness within them began to recede, replaced by a growing sense of hope and optimism. Years passed and the galaxy flourished. The species achieved new heights of scientific and artistic achievement. They explored new frontiers, both within and beyond their own galaxy. They discovered new forms of life, new civilizations, new wonders. But the architects never forgot them. They continued to observe the galaxy, to monitor its progress, to assess its worth. And one day they returned. They appeared in the sky, colossal figures of light and shadow, their presence filling the galaxy with awe and terror. The species of the galaxy held their breath, waiting for the architects to pass judgment. The architects were silent for a long moment, their energy swirling around the galaxy. "We have watched you," the architects said finally. "We have seen your progress, your achievements, your struggles. We have seen the darkness within you, but we have also seen the light." The architects paused, their voices taking on a tone of approval. "You have proven yourselves worthy. You have shown that you are capable of overcoming your flaws, of living in peace and harmony. You have earned your place in the universe." The architects smiled, their energy transforming into a beautiful array of colors. "We will leave you now, but we will continue to watch you. We will continue to guide you, and if you ever need us, we will be there." The architects disappeared, vanishing into the void from whence they came. The galaxy erupted in celebration. The species had passed the architects' test, and they had earned their right to exist. They had overcome the darkness within them, and they had created a future filled with hope and promise. Alara and Rylak stood on the surface of a peaceful planet, gazing at the stars. They had saved the galaxy not once but twice. They had faced unimaginable horrors, and they had emerged victorious. They had learned the true meaning of courage, compassion, and sacrifice. They had forged a bond that transcended species, transcended culture, transcended everything. "We did it," Alara said, her voice filled with emotion. "We actually did it," Rylak smiled. "Yes, we did, but we didn't do it alone. We did it together." They looked at each other, their eyes filled with love and respect. They knew that the future was uncertain, that new challenges would inevitably arise. But they also knew that they could face anything as long as they faced it together. The galaxy was safe for now, but the universe was vast, and there were still countless mysteries to be uncovered, countless challenges to be overcome. And humanity, along with its newfound allies, was ready to face them. The echoes of humanity's profound potential, now a beacon, resonated throughout the cosmos, a signal of both hope and the unknown, into the silent symphony of stars. In the void, beyond the reach of even the architects, a single ancient consciousness stirred. It had slumbered for eons, oblivious to the events that had transpired in the galaxy. But now it was awakening. It had sensed the presence of the architects, and it was not pleased. The architects were merely children, playing with the building blocks of the universe. They did not understand the true nature of reality. They did not understand the true purpose of existence. The ancient consciousness prepared to awaken. It was time to reveal the ultimate truth, the truth that would shatter the foundations of reality and reshape the universe in its own image. Humanity, still basking in its hard-won peace, remained blissfully unaware of the cosmic storm gathering on the horizon. The true test, the ultimate test, was yet to come.